I accidentally ended up going on a date with my buddy's wife. My name is Jushu. Seeing all my friends paired up while I'm still single, I felt a bit off. So, I downloaded a social app, thinking I'd try my luck and flirt with some girls. To my surprise, right after downloading it, I started chatting with a beautiful girl. She was very enthusiastic and proactive. I zoomed in on her profile picture, trying to get a closer look, but the more I stared at it, the more familiar she seemed. Oh my god, isn't this my buddy Chen Xiong's wife, Gao Nana? At first, I didn't believe it, so I chatted with her a bit more, and sure enough, it was Gao Nana. They had only been married for half a year, and Gao Nana was already flirting with guys on social apps. I couldn't take it anymore and immediately called my buddy. Xiong, where are you? Your wife is cheating on you. I couldn't say that last part. I'm out of town on a business trip, he replied. Well, I found out one of my friend's wives is cheating, and I don't know how to tell him, I said, trying to approach the subject indirectly, hoping he'd catch my drift. Old Jew, you're dreaming. You don't even have a girlfriend, so you wouldn't know this kind of trouble. I've got work to do, talk to you later, he said, and hung up before I could reply. Damn it, even he was mocking me. Just as Chen Xiong hung up, Gao Nana started bombarding me with messages. She said she missed me, asking why I hadn't been replying, and sent me all kinds of selfies. Then she sent me a series of pictures of herself wearing black stockings. I nearly lost it. I have to admit, Gao Nana's body was incredible, and those photos were absolutely tempting. But a friend's wife is off limits. Just as I was about to block her, she sent me a hotel room key number and said, if you don't come to me, I'll come to you tonight. I couldn't take it anymore. I quickly messaged Chen Xiong, when the hell are you coming back? But that guy was too busy with work and didn't reply. Your wife is about to cheat on you. Seriously, it's always the third party who's more anxious. Just as I was getting desperate, Gao Nana messaged me again, saying, if you want to come to me, I'll come to you. Then I realized, I had shared my location with her before. She said she knew which neighborhood I lived in, and if I didn't go to her, she would go door to door to find me. What the hell? If she shows up, I'll be in big trouble. I quickly texted her back, saying I wasn't feeling well and had been running to the bathroom all day. I needed to go to the hospital for an injection. Finally, she gave up on coming to find me. I sighed in relief, but then I saw her post something on the social app. A sexy photo. Although you couldn't see her face, she was only wearing a swimsuit, and her figure was absolutely stunning. I remembered how I used to avoid looking at her when we went out for meals with the guys because she was just too damn beautiful. Her figure was so good, I was afraid if I stared too much, I'd fall for her. But when I saw her post's caption, I almost fell off my chair. It said, rich guy, please support me. Was she really this blatant? Casting a wide net, huh? Seems like if I didn't bite, she'd go after the next one. So desperate. My buddy was always good to her, why was she doing this? Then I scrolled down, and the comments were blowing up. At least a dozen people had commented in the blink of an eye. Looks like there's a lot of wolves, but not much meat. And I noticed Gao Nana had been chatting with someone named, I'm a rich guy. Their conversation was full of innuendo, and they were already planning to meet up. The speed was unreal. Gao Nana even shared the same hotel room number she had sent me. After a while, they stopped updating. Had they already met in person? Should I rush over and catch them in the act? No, I had to call Chen Xiong and tell him about this huge mess. I called him several times, but his phone was off. Damn it, this guy turned his phone off. I wasn't going to let this go. I thought we were good friends, so I couldn't just stand by. I typed up the situation in a message and sent it to Chen Xiong. Then I went out personally. I took a taxi to the hotel Gao Nana mentioned. As soon as I arrived at the door, I heard moaning sounds from inside the room. Are you kidding me? Couldn't he wait, huh? Gao Nana, how could you do this to Xiong? I was furious. I had to stand up for my friend. I was about to figure out how to get inside when I saw the door was actually unlocked. I didn't care anymore, I just opened it and walked in. You guys, I started to say, but before I could finish, someone hit me from behind, and I passed out. When I woke up, I found myself on the bed, disheveled. What's going on here? Before I could process what was happening, the door was suddenly kicked open with a bang, and someone stormed into the room. It was Chen Qiang. Before I could say anything, he grabbed my sleeve and punched me straight in the face. "FCKU, you turtle bastard. You're putting a green hat on me." He twisted my arm behind my back, trying to hit me again. I begged for mercy, feeling more and more wronged. I knew Chen Qiang must think I'm the one who has been having an affair with his wife. "Qiang, you're hitting the wrong person. I came here to help you catch your wife cheating, and I even sent you the address and room details," I pleaded. Chen Qiang was still furious, but after a moment, he started to calm down a bit, realizing what I was saying. "Sorry, bro, I thought you were provoking me on purpose." His face was still dark, clearly upset, but there was some guilt in his eyes now. I understood how he felt. Anyone would lose it in this situation. I explained everything to him and showed him my phone, but when I opened her social media feed, I saw that the post Gao Nana made yesterday was already gone. Damn, she hid it so quickly. But soon, I saw that Gao Nana had posted again. This time, the photo was even sexier, a seductive shot of her back and shoulder. Although you couldn't see her face, the photo was still incredibly provocative. I couldn't help but swallow nervously. Chen Qiang saw the picture too, and he was livid. Damn it, is she treating me like I'm dead? Posting such provocative pictures online. With that, Chen Qiang rolled up his sleeves and stormed toward the door, looking like he was ready to go kill someone. The comments were blowing up again. I quickly called out to him. "Bro, we got a big problem." Chen Qiang, who had been about to charge out, turned around and asked, "What's going on?" I could see the frustration on his face. I couldn't say it directly, so I handed him my phone. In the comments, Gao Nana had tagged 3 guys, inviting them to meet up. This move was bound to drive my friend crazy. As expected, when Chen Qiang saw it, he nearly exploded. "This woman is so shameless. I'm going back to kill her." Chen Qiang nearly threw my phone across the room, but luckily I managed to grab it in time. He stormed off, black-faced. I felt like something wasn't right, so I followed him. He ran straight into their house and immediately grabbed a kitchen knife. "Hi Nana, come out here," he yelled. His anger was so intense that it didn't seem like a joke anymore. I didn't want to be part of a tragedy, so I rushed over and tried to stop him, but his strength was too much, and he pushed me away. Luckily, Gao Nana wasn't home. "What are you stopping me for? I'm going to kill her," he screamed, clearly about to explode. I had to tell him to calm down. "If you kill her, you'll end up in prison," I said. He was so worked up that his reasoning was clouded by rage. He angrily muttered, "If I go to prison, so be it." Then, it seemed like he suddenly remembered something. He asked me to send him the location. "I'm going to find them and kill them," he said. I wasn't about to give him the address, not with that kind of state of mind. After a while, he began to cool down a bit, so I started to explain things to him. The best way to deal with a woman like her is revenge, not killing her. The important thing is to make her wish she were dead. We need to gather evidence. He grumbled, "Isn't the comment on that app evidence enough?" I explained, "That's not real evidence. She could just delete the comments and deny everything. We won't have anything to hold against her. I can't take this anymore. Give me the damn location," he snapped. I told him that if he went through with this, I didn't want him to end up in prison, and he reluctantly agreed. He put the knife down, and I finally gave him the address. Once he saw it, he lost it completely and immediately called a cab to go there. I was still worried something would go wrong. Chen Qiang was alone, and there were 3 other guys on the other side. If a fight broke out, I had no idea who would end up getting hurt. I rushed to catch up, but by the time I got into a taxi and started heading over, he was already too far ahead. The location was a villa, quite big, with its own private swimming pool. The door was unlocked, so I just walked in. I expected to hear loud noises or chaos, but it was eerily quiet inside. I braced myself and went deeper into the house. When I entered the living room, I was shocked by the mess. It looked like there had been a struggle, and I even spotted red stains on the floor. Someone had been bleeding? Had someone been hurt? What if Chen Qiang had already been taken out by them? The thought made me panic even more, but I kept going forward. When I reached the bathroom, I froze in shock. It was a bloody scene, blood was everywhere. What the hell happened here? But there was no one in sight. Who got hurt? I stepped in slowly, but then I heard movement behind me. I turned around and saw Chen Qiang, his hands covered in blood. Before I could even approach him, I slipped and blacked out. When I woke up, I found myself lying on a lawn with Chen Qiang. My heart raced, and I immediately grabbed his shoulder, asking in a panic, "Did you kill someone?" He didn't answer, so I shook him desperately by the shoulder. "Didn't you promise me you wouldn't cause any deaths?" I was almost losing it, but he just stayed silent, his brows furrowed in pain, looking regretful. He finally shook his head. After repeated questioning, he told me he didn't know what had happened. I was stunned. How could you not know if you killed someone? But the scene in that room was still fresh in my mind, blood everywhere. The air still smelled faintly of it. I didn't want to remember it any more than I had to. Finally, he started telling me what had happened. When he arrived at the villa, he was knocked out the moment he stepped inside. He didn't even have the chance to confront anyone. When he woke up, he found himself surrounded by chaos, 3 bloody bodies lying nearby, and in his hand, he was holding a sharp knife covered in blood. He panicked and immediately dropped the knife. He checked the bodies, putting his hand near their noses. They weren't breathing. He had no idea what was going on. Then, he heard some noise coming from the bathroom, and when he went to investigate, he found me. I had collapsed. In his panic, he pulled me out to the lawn by the lake and used the water to clean the blood off my feet. I wanted to tell him to turn himself in, but then I thought maybe someone was setting him up, framing him for a crime he didn't commit. Suddenly, he stood up, determined. "I'm going to turn myself in," he said, shouting. He started to walk away, but I grabbed him and stopped him. "Don't be impulsive," I said. "You don't even know for sure if you killed anyone. What if the real murderer is still out there, and you end up taking the fall?" He thought about it and, reluctantly, seemed to realize I had a point. I suggested we go back to the crime scene and check things out. He agreed, and together we returned to the villa. This time, everything was eerily quiet. The pool water was clear and still. But when we stepped inside, we noticed everything was clean and tidy. No sign of the chaos we had witnessed earlier. I went to the bathroom, and even that was spotless. There wasn't a trace of blood anywhere. We both stood there, confused. What the hell happened? I muttered. Maybe we were seeing things last night, or maybe we were sleepwalking. One person sleepwalking could make sense, but both of us? That's impossible. Then, an unsettling thought suddenly crossed my mind. "Qiang, I need to tell you something, but please don't get scared." "Tell me," he said, patting his chest. "I can handle it." I took a deep breath and decided to share my theory with him. "I think this whole thing was planned by your wife, Gao Nana. I suspect she is a serial killer." He interrupted me immediately. "No way. My wife is just a little girl, she is terrified of even stepping on a cockroach. How could she do something like this?" Chen Qiang, once again, was completely siding with his wife. "I think this is all just a misunderstanding." I understood his feelings toward his wife, but I needed to reason with him. First of all, she was fishing for guys on social media, and she was talking to 3 men at once. At first, we thought she was just cheating, but now we see she had the perfect opportunity to act. A woman couldn't overpower 3 big, strong men by herself. The only explanation is that she drugged them and then stabbed them when they were incapacitated. She didn't expect you to show up at the villa right after she finished, so she knocked you out and set you up as a scapegoat. I went on, rambling with theories. He shook his head, waving his hand dismissively. If she really wanted to frame me, there wouldn't be a need to clean everything up so perfectly. I paused and thought about what he said. He might have a point. "Did you notice anything unusual at the scene?" I asked him. He looked at me, and for a moment, there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. He said that he was so panicked at the time that his only thought was to escape with me, and the whole night felt like a blur. Suddenly, I realized something else. We've been here for so long, but we haven't seen your wife, Gao Nana, at all. Could it be that my wife never came here, and the killer is someone else? He really hoped that his wife had nothing to do with it. I then had another sudden thought. What if your wife is the one who hired the killer? That is even more impossible. My wife doesn't have that kind of money, and what would her motive be for killing someone? Now, the situation had become a complete mystery. I suggested that we stay calm and figure out exactly what had happened. For now, all we could do was head home and think things through. At that moment, Gao Nana called him. He froze, not reacting at first. After a few prompts from me, he finally answered the phone. He spoke briefly before hanging up, telling me his wife wanted him to come home for dinner. But he was nervous and wanted me to go with him. I had planned to decline, but he said, "Since you're already involved in this, as brothers, we stick together through thick and thin. I need you now." Seeing his urgency, I finally agreed to go back with him. When we got back, Gao Nana had prepared a huge spread. The table was full of food: white-cut chicken, roasted pork, fish, garlic shrimp, and even crabs. It was a feast. I had been so busy with my friend's issues that I hadn't had a proper meal in days. I was starving and couldn't help but comment, "It smells so good. Why are you two standing there? Come and eat." Gao Nana called out with a sweet smile, looking the picture of a loving wife in her apron. I couldn't connect this gentle, domestic side of her to the person I suspected of being a killer or the one who'd been playing around on social media. Just as I was about to sit down, Chen Qiang pulled me aside. He whispered in my ear, "My wife never used to cook. I asked her many times before, but she always refused." It was clear this was a bit too much effort for her to suddenly start cooking. Was there something more going on? I felt a chill run down my spine. Could she be trying to poison us? With Gao Nana still busy in the kitchen, I quickly scooped some fish soup to feed to the cat. After a while, Gao Nana returned with more dishes. "You don't need to wait for me, just eat," she said enthusiastically, undoing her apron. I glanced over at the cat, still happily playing and eating, and I finally let out a sigh of relief. But then my gaze shifted back to Gao Nana. I had to admit, without the apron, she looked absolutely stunning. She had curves in all the right places, and even though she was only wearing a plain white dress, from a distance, she exuded sensuality and charm. As a straight man, I couldn't help but swallow, feeling a little embarrassed. I quickly looked away. It was a shame, such a beautiful wife, and yet she wasn't mine. I then remembered the recent events. Forget it, with such a terrifying wife, I'd rather not have her. The constant fear would drive me crazy. Gao Nana kept serving Chen Qiang food, and she also put some on my plate. I politely nodded to thank her. Just as I was about to take a bite, Chen Qiang slapped my arm, and the piece of meat I was about to eat fell to the floor. "Oops, how clumsy of you." He was clearly doing it on purpose. "How can you waste food?" I shot him a look. But then I noticed he was giving me a meaningful glance. Following his gaze, I saw the cat, once lively now lying on the ground, foaming at the mouth. It was foaming. Was it over for the cat? It turned out the food was poisoned. A sense of survival flooded over me. Thank goodness I hadn't eaten yet. Chen Qiang didn't say anything but continued signaling with his eyes. I quickly had an idea and set my chopsticks down, slapping the table. I just remembered, I have another dinner with some friends. I need to leave right now. Without waiting, I grabbed Chen Qiang and hurried out. As we reached the door, Chen Qiang turned to Gao Nana and said, "Honey, we're heading out now. You can leave those things for a late night snack." With that, we both bolted out of there. We finally made it out safely, but I was panting heavily. If I'd known what I was getting into, I would never have gotten involved in this mess. Now I had no idea what to do. "Bro, I think I'll stay at your place tonight," he said, now too scared to go home. I gave him a look. Honestly, I was starting to get annoyed. I'm a single guy with a single bed, and now he wanted to crash at my place. Two big guys in one tiny bed. When I didn't respond, he seemed to pick up on my reluctance and quickly added, "I can sleep on the couch. You wouldn't want me to go back home, right? I'm afraid if I fall asleep, she'll come in with a knife and kill me, just like those three guys. I'll end up like them, disappearing without a trace." The more he spoke, the more terrified he seemed, and the more stubborn he became about following me. "But if you don't go home, won't she get suspicious? We've made so much noise already. If she was going to suspect anything, she would have by now," he said, as though he had already resigned himself to the situation. "All right then, send her a message saying you're not coming home tonight." He nodded and immediately did as I suggested. When I finally got home, I was relieved, only for the doorbell to ring. He was in the bathroom, and I thought he might have ordered takeout. Without thinking, I opened the door only to find Gao Nana standing there. How did she find me here? Can I come in? She asked, her eyes filled with tears, looking utterly pitiful. I couldn't refuse her, and since I had already opened the door, not letting her in would be been rude. Before I could say anything, she walked right in, sat on the couch, and started crying as though she had suffered some great injustice. I was at a loss for how to explain to her that Chen Qiang had been at my place. But before I could say anything, she started crying to me, saying that she didn't know where Chen Qiang had gone and that he had been coming home late every night. I finally realized she didn't know Chen Qiang was here, and she had come to find me. Find me? Did she think I knew something? Was she here to silence me? I quickly sent a message to Chen Qiang in the bathroom, telling him that his wife had arrived and that he should stay hidden for now. I also told him that if Gao Nana made any move, he needed to come out immediately and take pictures as evidence. I needed to understand what her real motive was. Sis-in-law, I didn't even get to finish my sentence before she lunged at me. I panicked and quickly turned to avoid her, but she ended up crashing into the couch. What the hell? Was she really trying to seduce me? I had already seen her tactics, and I wasn't about to fall for them. She might be a seductive and charming woman, but right now, I cared more about keeping my life intact. Beauty is a disaster, as they say, and now I truly understood the meaning of that phrase. You're so close to him. Can you tell me what's going on with him lately? Gao Nana looked up at me with tearful eyes, her face full of innocence and pain. It was enough to make anyone feel sorry for her. A few times, she tried to lean closer to me. I quickly dodged, knowing that Chen Qiang was in the bathroom, watching everything. I could only offer her some comforting words. I think he has been under a lot of stress with work lately. You should try to understand each other better as a couple. I had to throw out some random words to avoid her suspicions. We had been talking for over 2 hours, and it was almost midnight, yet Gao Nana didn't seem like she was planning to leave anytime soon. I was getting anxious. Chen Qiang must have been standing in the bathroom for hours by now. I finally spoke up. Sis-in-law, it's getting late. Maybe you should head back home for the night. It was a bit suspicious for her to come here to complain so late. She stood up but turned to me and said, but it's dangerous for me to go back alone at this hour. Could you walk me home? She had asked so directly, and I wasn't sure how to refuse. But I was more afraid that she would attack me on the road. I wondered in my heart, did she deliberately let me send her, and then find a remote place to attack me? After all, there is a surveillance camera at the entrance of this community. If she kills me here, she can't get rid of suspicion. Just when I didn't know what to do, a message from Chen Qiang suddenly came to my phone, send her back. It's so late, I'm also afraid that she will be in danger. Oh, buddy, you are wrong, shouldn't I be the one in danger? Sure enough, people value love over friendship. I sent a message to him to follow us. At this time, Gao Nana stood up and said, I want to go to the bathroom. Then she walked straight to the bathroom before I could reply. But now I have no time to stop her. I saw that she was about to open the door. The door opened, and I closed my eyes, thinking that there would be some movement inside, but Gao Nana walked in, washed her hands and came out. How could there be no reaction? I think it's abnormal. So I prepared to check the time, and found that there was really no one. Where did Jiangzi go? He would not be taken away and destroyed in just a few minutes, but it would take some time to destroy the body, so I went to the window to take a look. As a result, I saw Chen Qiang climb to the balcony through the window, and the whole person was trembling there. Seeing that he was about to collapse, I turned around and left. Then Gao Nana and I walked out. I was thinking of taking a taxi, but she said no, saying that she drove here. When I saw her car, I was stunned. When did she have such a BMW? Because Jiangzi's family is not rich, and her job is just an ordinary employee, how could she have a high salary to buy such a good car? Then there is only one possibility, either Gao Nana is kept as a mistress by someone else, or she killed someone to silence him and took someone else's car for himself. Just as we were about to get in the car, I saw Chen Qiang following us stealthily. I deliberately said that I would drive and asked her to give me the key. I took the opportunity to let him get into the trunk, and I didn't close the trunk tightly. I was afraid that something might happen, and he could come out from the back to save me. I also told him that if I honked the horn frantically over there, it would be a hint to him that I felt dangerous. I sat in the driver's seat and prepared to drive. Not long after driving, GAO Nana told me that the car seemed to be running out of gas, and we had to go to a nearby gas station to refuel. I had to be very alert. After all, it was a dark and windy night, which was suitable for killing people. When I arrived at the gas station, I even stuffed a bottle of water into the trunk when no one was paying attention. But I fainted after walking a few steps, and when I woke up, I found myself in the car in a disheveled state. And I was the only one left here, and the car was parked at an intersection not far from Chen Xiong's house. I was panicked. What happened last night? Why can't I remember anything? I got out of the car quickly. I rushed to the trunk to check, and found that Chen Xiong was gone. I couldn't get through to his phone at this time. Could something have happened to Chen Xiong? I suddenly remembered at this time that I bought a bottle of water at the gas station at night. After drinking it, I couldn't walk steadily. There must be something wrong with the bottle of water. Is it my sister-in-law who did it again this time? I can't care so much. I rushed directly to Chen Xiong's house, and it was my sister-in-law who opened the door. I asked anxiously, "Is Chen Xiong here?" GAO Nana was stunned at first, then shook her head, and then began to ask me back, "He didn't come back, did something happen to him? Tell me quickly. You should tell me what happened last night, right?" I think the acting skills of this woman in front of me are really good. If I hadn't known what happened before, I would really believe what she said. She looked at me in confusion. "What are you talking about? Did you kill Chen Xiong? He's your husband." I couldn't bear it any longer and blurted out the words. I realized then that something was wrong. I could easily be silenced if I said those words in front of a murderer. Looking back at GAO Nana, she actually started crying. GAO Nana burst into tears and looked at me with her innocent big eyes. I became confused for a moment and couldn't tell whether GAO Nana was the victim or... Did I misunderstand her? But Chen Xiong never came back. Where could he have gone? GAO Nana told me that after I sent her back last night, she insisted on staying in the car all night. But I don't remember anything at all. Is my memory confused? Although I like cars, I'm not obsessed with them to this extent. What could have happened to Qianzi? But now that he's been missing for less than 24 hours, I can't call the police. We were so anxious that we were exhausted, but I saw that she was not pretending. Just as we went downstairs to continue looking for people, their neighbor ran to GAO Nana in a panic. "It's terrible, your husband is in trouble." I almost couldn't stand. The neighbor said that he just passed by the abandoned factory when he was buying vegetables and saw Chen Xiong lying there motionless, and he didn't respond no matter how he called. I don't know if he is dead. Qianzi was in trouble, and GAO Nana and I rushed over together. But when we rushed over, we saw Qianzi walking towards us. Oh my God, is this a fake corpse? It wasn't until he touched his face with my hand and I felt the temperature of his body that I was sure that he was still alive. I was just thinking about how to avenge him. He said he was fine, but he just slept in the abandoned factory for some reason and his back and waist were sore. It's best if he is safe. But his nose and face were swollen, as if he had been beaten by someone. They were all superficial injuries. I guess the man who beat him just wanted to teach him a lesson. Later, I pulled Qianzi and told him quietly that I thought the whole thing was his wife's doing. So the two of us went together to secretly test GAO Nana, but we didn't get anything out of it. But I just felt that GAO Nana had a problem, but I couldn't find any evidence. The next day, Chen Xiong told me a very scary thing. He said he was threatened. He opened his phone to show me that someone had recently sent him a photo. The photo showed him holding a knife and 3 men lying in a pool of blood. Threatened him to divorce his wife. I was more certain now. It must be your wife's doing. She wants to divorce you, so that she can be with someone else openly and without having to bear the stigma. It must be like this. She is really a scheming woman. If she wants a divorce, wouldn't she just say it directly? But I thought about it carefully again. If you really want to divorce, there is no need to go through so many circles, unless there is another possibility, that is, it is not your wife who wants you to divorce your wife. If it is not my wife, then who could it be? He was also a little confused. But I stared at him coldly and said, Could it be that you have a romantic debt outside? Romance debt. He swallowed his saliva with a guilty conscience. I just asked him tentatively, but I didn't expect his reaction to be so big. I was immediately a little angry. Damn it, do you really have a woman outside? Even I looked down on him a little. Then think about it quickly, which woman is the most suspicious? But I think at this time. However, Chen Qiang took out his mobile phone and opened a page to show me. I was immediately shocked when I saw it. He opened his WeChat account for me, and there were more than a dozen women on it. He had chatted with them, and they were all ambiguous. I wanted to vomit blood. The chat records of any one I opened were full of dirty talk. I grabbed Chen Qiang and said, "You are too much of a fish farmer. You have such a beautiful wife, but you are still messing around outside." Chen Qiang waved his hand and said, "I was just chatting with them. Nothing real happened." He must have regretted it at this time. I'm not as excessive as Gao Nana. He was very resentful now. After a while, the strange number sent him another text message: "If you don't divorce, I will not only expose your affairs. Oh, I forgot to show you something interesting." As a result, he sent a photo below, which was simply amazing to the two of us. In the picture, Gao Nana walked to the villa with 7 or 8 men. No way, I was shocked. She, a woman, wanted to be with so many men. I felt horrible when there were 3 before. I suddenly felt that something was wrong. Maybe Gao Nana would repeat the same trick and kill those men to silence them. Let's go over and take pictures of her crime evidence. He was now feeling mixed emotions, and he didn't say anything, just followed me. The two of us came to the villa again. This time we were particularly scared. After the last lesson, we decided to let one person go in first. If anything happened, we would immediately shout to the people outside to call the police and rush in with the police. But he had already lost his temper and walked in. I wanted to stop him, but it was too late. He even locked me out. As a result, he started shouting not long after he went in, and his voice was particularly loud. He said something about how much he missed me, why I ignored her, and sent me all kinds of selfies. I couldn't help it either, so I jumped over the wall and jumped in. But the scene in the villa was completely unexpected. There were 2 tables inside. Gao Nana was playing mahjong with those men. Everyone had a smile on their faces, but Chen Qiang was kneeling on the keyboard like a child who had done something wrong. I was speechless for a moment and stood there. Later, Chen Qiang also explained to me that it was all Gao Nana's prank, and those men were her distant relatives. They made such a scene just to scare and punish Chen Qiang. The blood in the villa before was chicken blood and red ink, and the reason why the 3 men died was that they stopped breathing temporarily when they were waiting for Chen Qiang to put his hand on his nose. He was frightened and did not check carefully. The white liquid that the cat vomited that day was actually the milk that Gao Nana fed it. That night, she also knew that Chen Qiang was hiding in the bathroom and the trunk of my car. Gao Nana deliberately knocked us out, then put Chen Qiang in an abandoned factory, beat him up, and put me in the car. The message was also sent by Gao Nana using a relative's mobile phone. The BMW was lent to her by her distant relative, her great cousin. The reason why Gao Nana did this was entirely because she found that Chen Qiang had a WeChat account, and he always flirted with others on it, and he liked to flirt with girls under the pretext of business trips. Now that the truth is out, Chen Qiang dares not say a word. After being tormented by his wife, Chen Qiang immediately cancelled all their WeChat accounts. Now he is devoted to her alone, taking care of all their housework, going home on time after get off work, and behaving himself when on business trips. Gao Nana felt sorry for dragging me into this prank, so she introduced her distant cousin to me. Her distant cousin has a good figure and a beautiful face, and most importantly, she has a good personality. We both get along very well. I also uninstalled that social software. Because I am about to get married, yes, to Gao Nana's distant cousin.